So we're going to kick off with deep dives per region. But first is the hottest topic everywhere in the world. Ben, NFTs, go.
Yeah, I mean, like Ron said, I could talk about this for 90 minutes alone or easily more. We tried to provide you with some facts and figures because that's what we typically do. We're data guys, and this is our overview of the global NFT space in sports. So what do you see here? Two things for each region. How much funding went into that region? It's for the last 5 years, correct?
Yes. Oh, sorry, no, this is just in 2021. The
This
funding.
is just, I forgot to ask you this before the show. Okay, even more crazy. So this is just 2021 funding with the respective companies, and you see, and that we also like to show a few differences. Who the major sports leagues in the respective regions are partnering with. But let's take it step by step. First of all, you see most funding went into North America. Surprise, surprise. Asia Pacific again, number 2. Europe, number 3. And Europe and Asia Pacific combined have a little bit less than North America. So if we add these numbers, that is 2.7 billion. That is a lot of. How much was it in total this year? Who paid attention? Or did you pay attention?
Attention to what? What was the total?
You're checking questions.
I'm checking questions.
This year was 11.6
11%.
billion in funding in sports tech globally, and 2.7 out of that come only from companies in the NFT space. So there's almost 1/4 of the funding from that's coming from NFT-related companies. If you look at North America, there's one clear leader with Dapper Labs. If you look at Asia Pacific, there is one clear leader with Animoca Brands. And surprise, surprise, if you look at Europe, there is one clear leader with Sorare. So each of the 3 regions have this one shiny star that is leading the pack, basically. But there's still other very relevant companies. For example, Fanatics from Jacksonville, we talked about it. Only with regards to the NFT investment, they have received 350 million US dollar. And if you look at the partnerships, it's also really interesting to see who's partnering with whom. So if you look at North America, we have all the big leagues, NBA, NFL, UFC, MLB, NASCAR, and so on and so on. Almost all of them have partners within North America, with one exception, which is Sorare with the MLS, which has to do with the fact that Sorare is so focused on soccer, so it makes sense for the MLS to go that way. If you look at the major NFT partnerships in Asia Pacific, and not all of those sports leagues are necessarily based in Asia, because there are not so many sports leagues that we were able to cover there. But if you look at, for example, the ICC, the J League, the Indian Super League, and the others, they all partner with NFT companies from Asia Pacific as well. So same pattern as in North America. And once you switch over to Europe, that completely changes, which is interesting to me. So there you have all your soccer leagues. You have UEFA as the association. You have MotoGP, Formula E, Extreme E, the Euro League. And here we have a broad mix of companies from the ones that we have heard of before. So there's Dapper, there is Tops, there is Animoca, but there's also Sorare from Europe. So there seems to be a pattern that European clubs, associations, leagues are very open when it comes to partnerships or who to partner with. And in the other 2 regions, there's a tendency that they rather stay within the own region. That is just a quick dive into the NFT space. There are tons of other things to discuss, like what is a good NFT project? What should you not do? Partner with someone or do things yourself? What's the legal side of things? All of that. Again, you feel free to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, Nifty Sports. You can easily keep track of the latest news. And there's tons of other things to talk about. Maybe you should even do an extra session or report about it at some point, Ron.
Maybe we will, Benjamin. Maybe we will. All right, yeah, that's the NFT one. There's so much we could talk about. I think one question for you, Ben, which I will ask, is that if you look at the funding chart and by company, and we've seen this grow out even more, it's very much the gap between 1 and 5 is pretty significant, right, in each of the regions. So, do you think this is genuinely a winner takes all market, where one company which will just gather the market and we're done, or is there actually space for good competition, and will we see a battle like we've seen in fantasy and other areas in the past?
It's a really good question. I have a tendency to say rather yes, especially at the beginning, because let's say the more established topics within the NFT space are, I've said it multiple times, are player cards and highlight clips, player cards and highlight clips all the time. Yeah, this is where clubs, leagues, associations, players understand there is money to be made. And this is a race that is going on. This is also a very costly race. This is why all those companies raise a lot of money, because they have to pay for licenses. This is something the sports industry is used to do. But at least I believe there's so much else you can do with NFTs. But this needs a bit more development. It has to mature a lot. Also, not to forget, the audience has to be more ready to NFT based solutions. So I think, like many other things, it comes in wave. But wave number one is definitely a winner takes it all one, and it's going to be really hard to enter that game later on.
Yeah, it certainly seems like it. It seems like there are some people. Jaime, I think you were saying you should do our NFT report. Does anybody else want an NFT report? Drop us a message and maybe we will listen to you. All right, that is enough about NFTs right now. Moving this along, what else have we been seeing in other parts of the world? Let's start with North America. And yeah, there have been a couple of, I mean, there have been lots of things to talk about. I touched sports betting a bit earlier because that was such a topical thing. But we covered sports betting in a lot of detail in our last year's report. So I wanted to talk this time about a specific use case and the impact that it has on the rest of the industry, which is Peloton and connected fitness. Now you can see that beautiful graph on the top. Actually, it's not that beautiful if you're if you work for Peloton or you're part of the shareholder. More importantly, that share price peaked at about 150 or $160, and now it's trading back at basically its IPO level. So at its peak, it was at about $50 billion in market cap, and now it's come down to eight. So big rise and fall for Peloton. Now, what is the reason for this? In fact, we covered this in quite in good amount of depth with Anthony Venere, who is the founder of Fit Insider. Guys we know very well. We did a fitness tech report with them. So really guys who know what's happening in the industry. And he was of a similar opinion that this is just an execution problem at Peloton and not a market problem for connected fitness. Because if you look below that, top funded Peloton for X, there is still so much momentum within the fitness tech space that it seems like there is space for other companies to grow. It's not that connected fitness or big equipment is going to disappear as people go back to gyms. No, this segment will still remain rich. Peloton themselves are still a very attractive company. They have incredibly high retention rates. They have really high engagement. Their problems arise in production and margins per unit and things like that. It's been execution that has been a problem for Peloton, which has seen that dramatic fall. But the industry itself of connected fitness still very, very bullish. That's one big takeaway from Peloton's meteoric rise and fall. The other one is how many of the big tech companies are getting closer and closer to streaming, number one. And number two, how many leagues themselves are getting into direct to consumer streaming. Now you can see over there, based on in different parts of the world, all of Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google have taken over. Google, primarily through YouTube TV, have taken over live streaming rights of some major sports property, right? What they've also done this by is by geography, which is kind of links to what the leagues have done themselves. La Liga is a good use case. La Liga have launched their own live streaming platform, but only done it, I think it's in Indonesia and Thailand, right? You've seen the MLB do it. NBA has been doing this for a while. Essentially, everybody is trying to get into streaming. The power is being taken out of the hands of the traditional broadcasters, the likes of NBC and Sky Sports or Disney Plus, depending on wherever you are. So this momentum of streaming is gathering in a big way. And that happened a lot on the back of Apple and Amazon specifically over the last couple of months acquiring rights, sports rights for in pretty big deals. Apple picking up the MLB and the NFL, which they are still in finalized talks to. Amazon has had the NFL rights for a while, and in the bottom right corner you see the reason. Yeah, the value is supposed to hit some gazillion, billion, whatever, gajillion dollars. 87 is a large number, but maybe it'll be much larger already. A very healthy CAGR. So on one side, we talk about sports rights decreasing in value, but on one side, there's so much competition brewing that might push that value up. Ben, any questions on America?
Yes, from the audience, Tipo was asking that he understood that Viacom 18 has started a new sports channel, Sports 18, and he is wondering if they are going to start an OTT and starting to bid on rights.
I'll have to take that question. It's specific to India. I don't know about Reliance. We've heard some rumors, but we don't know how valid they are. But interestingly, Tipu, which is also you'll see on the slide, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Google have all taken the bid tender for IPL's streaming rights. Just again showing you how seriously all of the big tech giants are taking the IPL, yeah, and the potential that it has. So maybe Reliance will jump in as well. I cannot confirm that rumor, but it's something that I've read in a few places. All right, so that is North America. Moving along to Asia Pacific. What are the big trends here? Well, the biggest topic is India. Yeah, and we're seeing our home city, which is where some of the team is based. But actually, the team is based in the two big cities. Kimberly's in Mumbai, and Rishabh and Vishnu are in Bangalore, the top two cities when it comes to sports tech in India. Also, where the biggest companies are. You see Dream 11 based out of Mumbai. You see MPL, Cure Fit and Fitness, etc., based out of Bangalore. But most interestingly, you see that spike, that big jump from 2020 to 2021. Yeah, 450 million to 1.8 billion. Now, yes, agreed that 1.8 billion has a 1.2 billion deal, single deal of Dream 11, but remove it, and it's still so much further than what happened in 2020. Now, I will say that in 2022, will it cross 2 billion? That would be huge, and that would be a big surprise, to be honest, because I don't expect. I think the next phase for Dream 11 would be again IPO. They would expect them to go public in the not too distant future, but there is enough momentum. We've already seen a couple of 100 million plus deals in the Indian ecosystem, so it'll definitely be higher than 2020. Will it reach the heights of 2021? We don't know. I also should mention, for anybody in the Indian ecosystem, there are new funds that I'm not at liberty to disclose, but we know that there are some good new funds appearing on the market. There have been some good innovation initiatives that we are also part of, or that I'm a part of in some way or the other. So we're seeing a lot of action in that market. Really good signs that a big market like India is gathering momentum. On the right side, fitness tech remains a big topic. But do you have a question or something you want to say?
Nope.
Okay, let's keep it going. Fitness tech in the Asian market. Yeah, I'm keeping this moving, man. We've got 15 minutes to take everybody home.
Maintain your rhythm.
I'm flowing. Yeah, fitness tech is maintaining its rhythm because there is so much happening in that market. There is the Chinese companies, which are primarily on hardware. You'll see China here and coming into its own. Yeah, and all the other segments within the region, China doesn't appear to be doing too much. But when it comes to fitness tech and possibly with esports, there is good contrast with India and China. But with fitness tech, China is definitely far in a way ahead. You'll see how many is that? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven Chinese companies in that top 10 list. So clear leader there. Also, the top funded cities, Bangalore is still number one because of CureFit primarily, but there is still a lot more Chinese cities than Indians on that list. So that is the big takeaways from Asia Pacific. Sports tech boom in India, driven by fantasy, also fitness, but esports. Those are the three big drivers there. Fitness tech, it's China manufacturing. They are so good at what they do, and that's what's the dominant topic in that region. Coming to Europe, Ben, this is where I want to bring you in. We talked about football tech earlier. Now, a lot of that 815 million euros, I should clarify, is driven by Sorare, but that's still 200 million, which is there, which is pumped into the ecosystem more than any previous year, right? So even if you take out the top company, which Jaime talked about earlier, there is still a lot happening in football tech. We saw One Football, we've seen Genius Sports. Otro is an old company, but they keep trying to do something. Their name keeps being bounced around, but at least it's still there. But notable acquisitions also in the last few years, we've seen some decent deals. So football tech is definitely a big part of the conversation of sports tech in Europe.
And to add, One Football announced their funding round a couple of days ago.
Exactly. Yeah, we saw that. OneFootball has also announced an NFT platform. I think is it called Ira? Was
Era.
Era, something like that. Yeah, so something for to look out to from them. But apart from football tech, what else is happening in Europe? Not a lot. Yeah, and that's where we think that um, yeah, Europe needs to buck up. Ben talked about it in his list of top 10 cities from Europe. Germany was the only country which had multiple cities in the top 10 list. If you expand that to 25, there are only five countries with multiple cities in Europe. UK and Germany have four cities. Israel, obviously, will being the hub that it is, and Paris and Netherlands. None of the other countries have more than one city in the top 25, including Spain. We saw Madrid in, was it 10th place or ninth place, but Barcelona doesn't appear, which is a big shock, right? You see Stockholm, but nothing else. You see Copenhagen, but nothing else. So it's like each country has its hub, and everything is in that hub, and there's not much else happening around it, which is something that we'd like to see changed. Also, if you look at the top slide or top graphic, is you see Europe's contribution to the big trends. Yeah, with NFTs, it's pretty decent because of So Rare, but with the other topics, connected fitness, fantasy sports, yeah, not as much happening in Europe. And the last one, when you see the top companies also by subsector, very few European names in there. So we need to see more action in Europe. That is our big takeaway.
Just answering Konta's question, do you include business angels round though? Whatever round we find, we do include,
Yeah,
which also covers business angels.
exactly. I mean, those rounds are typically small, so they're volume, but they're not much of an amount.